In August 2019, the US Business Roundtable, BRT, published its revised statement on the purpose of a corporation. It was signed by nearly 200 CEOs of large corporations. It conveyed that a corporation's purpose was no longer to maximize shareholder value, but to serve all stakeholders. This was a big shift from the long-held status quo. Since then, purpose has triggered a lot of debate and discussion. It has its share of cheering supporters who welcomed it and vehement critics who argued that since pledging support to the idea of purpose, not all CEOs have managed to walk the talk. So what do purpose-driven organizations look like? How are they different? How do their boardrooms set their agenda to keep ahead of the curve? Hi, I'm Aloni Bhatt, and welcome to this special chat with Karan Singh, the managing partner of Bain and Company's India offices, on defining boardroom agendas for purpose-driven organizations of the future. Karan was among the team that set up Bain's India business in 2006 and has more than 25 years of management consulting experience across APAC and the United States. Karan, thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you, Melanie. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. So Karan, as you've told us, you've been with Bain since 1998, and you've had a long, eventful journey in India along with Bain, 16 years. What would you say are the highlights and what's your measure of the impact that Bain's had?
Thanks, Melanie. It's been an extremely fulfilling journey. It's gone, in a nutshell, it's a startup to scale story. The journey has been one where we've been very clear about building an enduring and a distinct institution in India. And so as a result, we have truly focused on our balance sheet in making sure we build a sustainable business across multiple verticals. We have been really focused on making sure we played and we were at the premium end of the segment. So the quality of the portfolio in terms of clients who we work with are just top-notch and marquee clients who we are very proud to be associated with. We are leading on multiple areas and we are innovating quite substantially. And we are proud of the culture in terms of the people and the brand that we have created, which is critical to any business and more so in today's environment. And we feel it is all our responsibilities to also be a responsible citizen. So we do a lot when it comes to the community and giving back. So it's been a fantastic journey for us. We have, from being new to the market, we are leading the market in multiple segments. We have the leading position with financial investors. We lead with consumers, with the consumer products companies. We lead in IT services, and we are doing probably the most amount of significant work with digital insurgents and the disruptors. It's been a story also of rapid and responsible growth and of getting to scale. We will be over 50 partners, about 700 consultants over 3 offices, and we've gone to being the largest office in APAC for Bain and Company. So we're very proud of the innovations also in terms of not only serving key winners of India, of corporate India, but just making sure we're at the forefront of working on cutting-edge topics that people really care about and are investing behind. So it's been a fantastic journey, and I feel really proud to have been part of this.
And we wish you continued success. From your vantage, Karan, this is linked to my next question. The pandemic hit businesses' livelihoods, and it pushed companies to innovate. It accelerated, as you pointed out, the shift to digitization. In the long term and the short term, what do you think are the drivers for growth when it comes to Indian businesses that you think boardrooms need to capitalize on?
Melanie, I'm very optimistic about the future, especially the mid to the longer term. We are seeing unprecedented levels of disruption. We are seeing tremendous superabundance of capital in terms of money that's sitting out on the sidelines for that is looking to be invested in good businesses. And we are seeing boldness by founders and companies like we've never seen before. So that's a combination of those three throws up huge opportunities for breakout growth for many of the companies that we are working with. Having said that, I think there is also tremendous volatility and uncertainty in the near term because of the input shocks in terms of what's happening on food and fuel and the geopolitical issues. So I think there will be turbulence in the next 6 to 9 months that we will have to weather. But I think the opportunity thereafter of reshaping portfolios, of making big bets for the future is very substantial. In our research, Miloni, it's quite interesting. We find that during turbulent times, the moves people make, the moves companies make, provides a tremendous opportunity to reshuffle the deck and reshuffle strategic positions. We see the difference between winners and losers quite substantial in terms of changes made during times of turbulence. So this is a great time for people for companies to reshape their portfolios, make some bets, and think about the future. But at the same point, we have to be thinking about managing the near term. So there is a agenda about delivering for today and delivering for today and developing the business for tomorrow. There are multiple mega trends that people are focusing on. I'll just mention a few of them. The biggest one really by far is transformations. And that's a combination of people looking at burning ambition and a burning platform. As you rightly mentioned, I think digital is a disruptive opportunity. And I think COVID has led everyone to agree that everyone needs to accelerate digital and think about how do we capture the benefits of digital transformations. We are seeing corporates reshape their portfolios in terms of mergers and acquisitions, in terms of looking at engine 2s and engine 3s. There is an important agenda, as I mentioned, about efficiency in the near term to fund the growth that we talked about. The people agenda, the talent agenda, and thinking about the future-ready operating model is a key imperative given all the challenges on the talent side. And I think we've moved from a balance of power from capital to more towards labor and good talent. And I think there is a tremendous important opportunity when it comes to ESG and thinking about doing good to society. So I think it's a very packed agenda. These are turbulent times, but also very attractive times for the future.
So, given all that you've told us, any advice to businesses looking to tap the Indian markets, with a focus on innovating for India, acknowledging the country's potential and the country's peculiarities?
I think. Are you talking more about MNCs, Miloni?
Yes.
So I think the MNCs have to decide their strategy first and foremost in India, and I think it either one commits completely to the Indian market or does not. So it's a go big or go home strategy. Having said that, I think being careful and being deliberate about defining the strategic playing field, I think is quite important. We've seen very successful MNCs stay at the premium end and play the premium niche game. We've seen others like Samsung and Cadbury play the masstige game. We've seen others, play the mass game like an LG or an Oppo. And then we've seen the comprehensive players like an HUL, like a GSK. So I think being clear about one's strategy in terms of where to play, I think is the starting point. Having said that, I think the how to win and the business model choices are probably more important or equally important. We need to be thinking about value propositions in India that are attractive to the Indian consumer. It's about what is the offering which is truly distinct and valuable to the Indian consumers. It's about how do we make sure we're delivering and creating the capabilities when it comes to go-to-market, when it comes to customer engagement, which is what the customers are truly looking for. And then I think it's very important here not only to think about market-facing capabilities, but the operating model is quite make or break here in terms of the support from global. It's about thinking about the right levels of funding and investments, and it's having an empowered, dedicated teams in India that can take calls and truly make sure we are innovating for India. Another choice a lot of MNCs are making is it India for India, or is it India for the region, or is it India for the globe? So there are opportunities to leverage capabilities in India, whether it's on the back end, whether it's on the talent side, whether it's on the knowledge side, to think about tapping global opportunities. But it's an important point I think you raise, which is let's be clear on the strategy and let's be clear on how does one win in a market which is quite competitive, and making sure we are delivering very clear, distinct value propositions and investing to localize the business and make sure we are creating a operating model that is finely tuned for the Indian opportunity. So I think it's a very important point for MNCs. We've seen MNCs decide that they will not play in the market, or they will look at other markets. On the other hand, we've seen MNCs triple down on India, given the large market that's available and the opportunity for exports as well.
Okay. Karan, I want to shift focus now, to the topic at hand. Employees are asking, how am I making a difference? How do I make an impact? And people want purpose, and they want to make this difference beyond just shoring up the company bottom line. Do you see, from your vantage, companies wanting that too? And are they being able to walk the talk?
It's a very good question. I think companies have to be purpose-oriented in today's environment to succeed. If we cannot attract, retain, and get the talent to thrive, there is no business. We are all going to be constrained, and we're not going to be competitive in this environment. So I think a purpose-oriented business is an absolute must. Some of the data that we are seeing and some of the trends globally are quite interesting and quite revealing. If you step back a little bit, Miloni, what's going on is, if you go back from the industrialized times to today, there is a perceptible shift across markets and across generations of moving from survival to providing more meaning in one's life. And then people, when we look at jobs, and we look at what people are solving for, only about 22% of employees really rank compensation as a number one criterion. So there are lots of other attributes that people are looking for in companies to stay and work and spend their professional careers. So I think it's a tremendous opportunity for companies to truly create what we would call a compass, which is a North Star of what they stand for and what's the big purpose of why they exist, of creating a bold vision and mission, making sure very distinct spiky capabilities for them to survive, but very importantly, the values of what the organization stands for in terms of providing the right opportunities, running the business in the right manner that people care about, giving back to the community, and doing good, and also thinking about the environment when it comes to elements like ESG. We've seen people start to focus on the environment part, but much less so on the societal part. So I think all of that needs to be holistically taken to really create purpose-oriented businesses. I think those who would do it will have tremendous competitive advantage in attracting and retaining the best talent. It's also what we're seeing is a fascinating change where I think we need to be thinking about providing heterogeneous opportunities or heterogeneous environments for people who are solving for very different needs. We did this very interesting study globally across 20,000 employees. And what we find is there are probably 6 different archetypes of what people are looking for. And so it is not a one size fits all. So we need to be thinking about how do we create the environment for operators, for givers, for strivers, for artisans, for explorers, for pioneers. So I think the benefit of just thinking about appealing to different talent groups in a purpose-oriented manner and giving them the right opportunity for them to thrive will make a huge difference. But this is a big challenge also for corporates who are navigating this environment.
Especially if you have to create that environment within one company, right? To communicate the heterogeneity as well. But I think that is my question. Are companies able to communicate purpose to employees?
I think it's less about, I think communication is important, the narrative is important. I think it's even more important of actually actions and making sure this is integrated into the strategy. Mm-hmm. So the compass or the purpose or what we stand for needs to be truly integrated in terms of business decisions and business operations. Let me give you a small example. If you think about Unilever, right? Hindustan Unilever, they're very clear. I mean, they're one of the winners in India's market. And again, back to the earlier question about MNCs and how MNCs have truly localized and Indianized to win in India. I think Unilever and what Sanjeev has done is exceptional. But what they've done with their purpose orientation is truly make that part of the way they operate. It's the way of life. It's part of their strategy, and it's also the way they operate. If you think about CSR, what Unilever has done is they've taken CSR and infused that within their core business. So they are making a difference to society. This project Suvidha that you may have heard about, which is all about hygiene and impacting the slums of Dharavi, is doing good for society, but it's part of what the business managers have their own KPIs. So it's about making a difference, it's about doing good, and it's about also impacting business. These are not at odds. So I think it's important to go beyond the narrative and beyond the communication to truly make sure we are walking the talk, we are taking the calls, making the investments, and living the purpose. And I think anyone who does that, companies who do that, will thrive in tomorrow's environment.
On this point, I was reading FT.com, and there was a piece by Stefan Stern in which he quoted a professor at the Michigan Ross Business School. I think it was Professor Jerry Davis, who said, and I quote, that purpose cannot solve the problem of shareholder primacy because shareholder capitalism is inherently corrupting of purpose. And then he wrote, when purpose and shareholder value get into a boxing ring, I will always bet on shareholder value every time. So what are your thoughts on this, Karan? Though you said that they are not at odds.
Miloni, I think we need to go beyond shareholders to stakeholders. And I think the returns and thinking about TSR or total shareholder returns is important. But I think when we add and think about all the stakeholders, the purpose of a company has to be to its consumers, has to be to its community, has to be to its employees, and has to be to its investors. We need to be thinking holistically. And I think the companies that are thinking of all the stakeholders and thinking about how do we run a business that truly has an objective function across stakeholders is the point I was making. So shareholder returns, I'm not suggesting is not important, but I think what I'm saying is the importance of the other stakeholders have to be dialed up, and we need to be thinking holistically on what do we do with employees to truly become the best place to work. And that's where we need to be appealing to employees and providing a culture and a way of working which is what people are looking for. We need to be thinking about the communities when it comes to elements of ESG and truly investing behind, do good and make sure how that goes alongside, good. If one does good and one does appeal to the right talent, it is also not at odds with good businesses. So I'm a believer that shareholder value needs to be the core element of what we're solving for, and we need to be thinking more holistically. Shareholder returns is going to be one important component of that.
All right. With that, Karan Singh, thank you so very much for your time and for your thoughts today.
Great. Love you to chat, Miloni. Take care.
Thank you very much. See you soon.